Alpha Day Micronesia. My name is Troy Torres here with Candid News. Welcome to our newscast tonight. If you can, let's get this out of the way right away. If you can, and we ask, and thank you for doing this for us for the past several nights. At the bottom of your screen, press share and share it to your timeline or your profile or whatever it's called, and to as many pages of groups or whatever that you're in. That would really help us to get the word out. Our audience has been growing, and it's thanks to you guys sharing these pages and you guys watching. So thank you very much for your support over this past year, basically. This is, I named the kitten Candid because when it was almost dead, it looked like it was on meth, and then it went to sleep for a long time, and then it started eating, and now it won't shut the fuck up. So this is a pork chop for this fat little kitten named Candid, who's all about the light and waking me up in the middle of the night. So we're going to start this live cast with turkeys brining. Now, I don't know how many days it's been. I've lost count. But in those days, Rendrati Celis Limtiaco, the fat publisher of the Pacific Daily News, likely has eaten a whole lot of pork chops and turkeys, and probably to get rid of the guilt that she feels in her conscience for not having any ethics in journalism. So sometime in March, I just can't remember the date, a guy named James Herbert, who is the past chairman of the Guam Chamber of Commerce, was so drunk coming out of a Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association gala that he ran his car into the Akanta Mall. Then he reversed, hit a bus stop, injured the guy who was in the bus stop, and he was arrested. A few nights later, booked and released. Rendrati Limtiaco never ran this story in the Pacific Daily News, just like she never ran the story about how her editor for some time, David Crisostomo, a fellow turkey eater, was peddling drugs out of the Pacific Daily News newsroom and out of the home of the federal public defender, John Gorman. None of those things made it to the news, but we see how two people today in the news, they made it a point. The Pacific Daily News made it a point to, you better not, made it a point to shame two people for stealing food because they needed to feed their families. Next up is, before we get into the news, is our segment that will run in anticipation of Gay Pride Month, which is in June. And maybe we'll keep it up forever and ever, I'm not sure, but at least from now until the end of June, we're gonna run in a segment called Name That Lesbian. Now, there are two contestants tonight. Eric, who's our producer, has the footage for the first segment. Tonight's lesbian, or the first of tonight's lesbians, looks and sounds like a man. Now, this person, I'm just calling her a lesbian. It's Maureen Maratita, the publisher of Glimpses and Guam Business Magazine. So I remember this, it was the Imagine Guam Imagination Conventions, basically visioning sessions where we brought together all these people from throughout the community. And Maureen looked at the list of invitees, and like how we made it was that we weren't going to invite Chamber of Commerce type people, you know, people in the business community, because they had always been the people who screwed up all of the plans for Guam because they're just so fucking selfish, right? And greedy. And Maureen asked me, well, Troy, I've noticed you don't have anyone here from the Chamber of Commerce. And I was like, yeah, Maureen, we did that on purpose because we don't want snobby people from the Chamber of Commerce imagining Guam for the next 50 years, because they're just going to imagine everything that's good for them and nothing that's good for the rest of the community. Like, people in the Chamber of Commerce, they don't get it. They don't understand what regular people go through. And she says, well, how do you expect to get any good, well, visioning out of this process. And I was like, well, without your snobby ass attitude, holy shit. Maria has this raspy voice, and she has this anyway, she looks like a lesbian and sounds like a lesbian, and I decided to shame her because she annoys me to a very big degree. Our next lesbian, and name that lesbian, is, wait, Chalu, don't go to my screen yet. Let me just get this out first. What the fuck is this thing at? Okay, this is more apropos to our discussion tonight later about on the news regarding Mount Carmel. Let's go to my screen now. Now that's a big lesbian, all right? This is like Joe Man Brown territory, swimming with the orcas over at SeaWorld. Is Darlene Heighton. She is the girlfriend of that greasy lesbian, attorney Mike Phillips. Then this is her with makeup, okay? Like, this is at a family function. She's wearing makeup, and I'm not sure who told her to uncover her manly shoulders. But she looks toe fucking up. I know people got a kick out of that one. All right, moving on. So, wait, hold on. Let me just double check this lineup. Right. Let's go to Lost Pets. So, Twyla again reposts from, like, we can go back to my screen. Reposts from, who's this reposted from? Jennifer and Greg. A missing dog or a lost dog. White female greyhound mix, very friendly, 9-year-old. Oh, it's an older dog named Jasmine. Last seen in Mauricio on May 7, 2019, wearing a faded orange collar. Please help us get our beloved dog home safely. If you have any info, please call 678-8613 or 678-9569. No questions asked, we just miss her. Thank you, Jennifer and Greg. Please help Jennifer and Greg to get their dog Jasmine back. Jasmine is an older dog, and it's probably very gentle. Looks like a very gentle dog. And because they're older, they just... God bless me. I don't know why. Excuse me, sorry. I'm talking to myself here. So I don't know why. Older dogs are just better dogs, I'll tell you that. And then this one, Tyler, again, also posts for someone else, for Guam Animals in Need. Be on the lookout. Bruno slipped out of his collar around April 28 down in Arahan and hasn't been seen since. Please contact GAME if you know of his whereabouts, 653-4246. Bruno is a brown, he's not a lowrider, he looks like a medium-sized dog. So be on the lookout. All right. Now, we have some information that might piss you off about Michelle Titano. So at the end of every month, I can't remember if it's Thursday or Friday, I believe it's the last Friday of every month, the Guam Parole Board meets. And I remember getting a bunch of messages in from the Speaker's office in this WhatsApp chat group that the Speaker's office has with people from the media. So I had to delete my WhatsApp app and then reinstall it because it was fucking up. Plus, it's always a good way to get rid of, like evidence or whatever. And so I lost all the documents. So I asked Chirag Boswani, the Speaker's assistant, again, when is the Speaker calling session? Because I thought that I saw that it's for May 30th, which would mean if the session was held on May 30th, it would mean that Michelle Titano would still be the chairwoman of the parole board for the last Friday of this month. So the governor did submit a nomination for Michelle Titano's replacement. And as soon as that replacement is confirmed by the legislature, Michelle Titano will no longer be the chair of the Guam Parole Board. The parole board would actually have to elect a new chair out of its remaining members, plus the new member, Frank Leon Guerrero. The good news is that I was wrong about the date, May 30th, and Chirag confirmed that May 16 is when the Speaker has called the legislature into session, and in that session, the senators are free to make motions to like bring things onto the agenda, including the nominations of gubernatorial appointees. We got some disturbing news, though, from the office of Senator Therese Terlahi. I want to read it to you. She wrote to the media, by statute, the Guam Parole Board is composed of 5 members appointed by the governor, by and with the consent and advice of the legislature. Currently, there are 3 members serving on the parole board. Well, there's 4. The Committee on Justice received 2 nominations for the Guam Parole Board. The appointment for Franklin Leon Guerrero was received on April 24, 2019. Well, that wasn't very long ago. A confirmation hearing date was tentatively set for May 13th. However, Mr. Leon Guerrero requested it be rescheduled until after May 20th. We tentatively scheduled a hearing date for next week, but are awaiting on confirmation from the nominee of his attendance. The appointment for Reverend Matthew Hunter, what's with reverends and the Guam Parole Board, was received on April 29, 2019. We received notification that his nomination was withdrawn on May 9th. The Committee on Justice is looking forward to making the parole board whole and will continue to set confirmation hearing dates expeditiously as appointments are referred to our committee. What this means is that if the Speaker doesn't call another session prior to that, after the 16th and prior to the last Friday of this month, Michelle Taitano will still have all of her power on the parole board, which is fucked up. What it also means is that Franklin Leon Guerrero just doesn't seem to be taking this shit seriously and doesn't seem to understand the uproar in this community for Michelle Taitano to hit the fucking road. Because Senator Therese Terlahi is trying to get this shit through, and Franklin Leon Guerrero hasn't even called to let her know about his attendance at another hearing that they've rescheduled for next week. So Mr. Leon Guerrero, please get off your fucking ass. Pick up that goddamn phone. Call Senator Therese Terlahi and schedule your fucking confirmation hearing, because then the committee needs to transcribe all of that shit and put all of your stuff together. And this is considering you have, like, you know, a record that you can defend and statements that you can defend, and that the legislature, that the committee is going to recommend that your confirmation, that you do get confirmed. Considering all of that, the senator needs to do that in order to make the people of Guam happy. But then, because you're wasting everyone's fucking time and you don't seem to have a sense of urgency about this matter, it would behoove you, even if Speaker or Senator Terlahi was able to get this confirmation thing through, it would behoove you to beg Speaker Tina Munoz Barnes to call another session, an emergency session of the legislature, to have your happy ass confirmed so that you can replace that dipshit Michelle Taitano. Do you get it? This is a big deal, Mr. Leon Guerrero. This is about, and we have Michelle Taitano on the record saying that the parole board is now, because of the community and its outrage, now not going to parole anybody, which is not only an injustice to all those who are supposed to be accorded due process in the parole process, but it also points to the parole board meeting unofficially and making decisions in the dark, without the public aware of these decisions being made. So, Mr. Leon Guerrero, we are counting on you to have this sense of urgency, do your job, call Senator Terlahi, let her know, yeah, Senator, I'm going to be able to attend your hearing. And you know what? She's a fucking senator. Why don't you reschedule your shit around her? Because she's fucking busy, all right? Last I checked, you're retired. So get on it, buddy. We're counting on you. Don't let us down. Moving on. And thank you, Senator Terlahi, for providing that explanation. We appreciate it. Oh, and Speaker Barnes, if they're able to do it, can you please, please, please call that session, because we just don't want to be in a situation where Michelle Taitano is still leading the parole board for its next meeting. It's crazy. I mean, it'll be fun when Candid goes to cover it, but it'll still be crazy, all right? So today, today, the Guam Police Department, Sergeant Paul Tapao confirmed that on May 10th, which was Friday, the coroner, or the person filling in for the medical examiner, conducted an autopsy on Jericho Zion David and determined that he died of blunt force trauma, which resulted in a skull fracture. And so his death is the result of an accident. Now, don't everyone get your panties in a bunch about that terminology. That's the term that the medical examiner uses. It's not the term, and it's not the same thing as the prosecutor calling it an accident, all right? So that whole process still is with the Guam Police Department. We've been able to confirm with Sergeant Paul Tapao that this matter still is under investigation. Now, whether it's a traffic investigation, a death investigation, or a homicide investigation, it's unclear at this time, but they do not have a person of interest or a suspect in custody. And for more on this, well, why don't we just go to our interview with Janela Carrera that we had earlier today. Hey, girlfriend.
Hey.
Hey, you're not live, but I am recording as an interview. Oh shit, what was I gonna? Oh, wait, that's right. So everything's blowing up about this autopsy, and I'm just wondering, the term accidental. I'm gonna guess that there's a difference between medical and legal terms. I'm sorry?
I'm not, I wouldn't be expert on that, but, with, GPD did say that the investigation is ongoing.
So the investigation, is it ongoing as a traffic investigation?
He didn't say whether it's a traffic or a death or a type, just that it's ongoing. I can follow up with him to find out what type of investigation we're doing.
Do you think, who's the medical examiner? Or who was the coroner?
I believe it's Dr. Dotterman.
Oh, he's not a coroner, he's a pathologist.
He is, forgot what the term was, but he's not an actual medical examiner.
He's not, he's a pathologist only.
Yeah.
Oh, dearie, all right.
Yeah, so I don't know, if that would warrant, if family falsehood or, whatnot. But
is the administration afraid that if this came to a trial setting, that this may present a problem for the prosecution? That a person who's not a full-fledged medical examiner made this report?
Sorry, say that again?
Is it a concern for the administration that if this were to enter into a trial setting in a vehicular homicide case, that this presents a problem for the prosecution? The fact that the report didn't come from a medical examiner but from a pathologist only?
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. PR, the Attorney General is, I believe the governor in fact signed a contract a few weeks ago for a forensic pathologist to.
And so we still believe that the Guam Police Department they're working their butts off on this case. There was a lot of chatter earlier today about the term accident, and even I was confused by it, so I had to ask a couple people who told me not to get my panties in a bunch about it. because that's just the term that they use. Even Johnny was telling me, Johnny was like, that's the term that they always use. And I was like, well, why would they call it an accident? And so, well, here's the difference, right? Like if the coroner said that some guy was strangled, obviously, there was another person who strangled that person. So that's clearly a homicide. The rule it as a homicide. Or if you die by asphyxiation and the coroner finds that it's because you have these marks on your neck from the rope, and the manner of death was a suicide. In the case of a car hitting the child, the manner of death is from a car accident. Now, whether there was criminal activity involved, meaning negligence of the driver, speeding, driving under the influence, not yielding, all these different things that would lead to a vehicular homicide, or what's the term, negligent homicide or something. That's something not for the coroner to decide, but for the police to make a recommendation to the Attorney General's office, and the Attorney General's office to go for an indictment or order the arrest. So I did text Carlina Charfris earlier tonight, and I asked her, wait, let me get the text out. Hi, Carlina, has GPD forwarded the case of the death of Jericho Zion David to the AG's office? She says, Hafaday, please check with me in the morning. And I said, okay. So that was stale from her. And then I did message Sergeant Paul Tupau after that. Has GPD forwarded this case or any part of it, or otherwise notified the Attorney General's office of it? And Sergeant Tupau has not responded. But what we do know is that as of at least 3 hours ago, no one was in custody. No person of interest or no suspect was in custody. So this is a developing story, and we're not going to see closure on it for some time, unfortunately for the parents. Moving on to Mount Carmel. And before we talk about the sex scandal, the child rape scandal, there was another story that we were following with regard to Mount Carmel, and this sort of is symptomatic, or it's symptomatic of something that we're finding in the child rape case. It's that there are powerful people who are able to have the Catholic Church or part of the Catholic Church or whatever, like Mount Carmel School, get away with things like illegal activity. So thanks to a source who went around the island today just to take pictures. Chelo, can we throw the pictures of the Mount Carmel signs up on the screen? Okay, wait, don't go to my computer yet, and I'll get these signs out. Hold on, from my WhatsApp. Sorry, everyone, my fault. Okay. Okay, go ahead and go to my screen. Okay, so there's one sign. That is a Titan. Oh shit, sorry, wrong way. There's another sign, I have no idea where that's at. It's all on Main Road somewhere. There's another sign, that's near Reverend Tax. There's another sign near very big power poles, that's probably Radio Barrigada. Another sign on Camp Watkins Road or Governor Carlos Camacho Road. Another sign on, I have no idea where this is at. Where is this? That looks familiar. Oh, this is Agania, right in front of that tattoo parlor. Another sign that's in Anigua, near Adelup. This is near ISC, International Sports Center in Agania. Another sign in Assen. In Assen again. Oh, And that's a graphic from Romeo Carlos. You'll see his stuff tonight. We'll talk about that in just a second. So, several signs in the north, central, and going into the southern area of the island, all of them illegally placed. Now, we contacted Jesse John Garcia, Deputy Director of the Department of Public Works. We spoke with, gosh, I forgot her name. We spoke with his assistant over at Public Works, who told us, and this was during a live show just a few days ago, when we reported that there were several people who've complained that these signs are obstructing traffic, and they are also illegally placed, and asking, you know, what is going on with fining Mount Carmel School for the placement of these signs illegally because they violate the sign law. At first, we were sent to speak with the engineer, and the engineer, who we were told would be making the decision, said, no, the decision, we've been waiting for a decision from the director's office and from the attorney general's office. And then after some commotion, Mr. Garcia's assistant came back online and said that Mr. Garcia said that they would be issuing fines for these signs. We wanted to know whether they were going to follow the law and issue fines for each and every one of those signs, but then we started to receive reports that these signs haven't even been taken down. And no one at DPW is answering these questions. So it's just symptomatic of the issues that exist and the sort of corruption that exists in our community, that just because you're someone rich and powerful like Attorney Mike Phillips, you and those who you advocate for, and the school is among those that Attorney Mike Phillips cherishes and advocates for, are able to get away with criminal activity. And speaking of criminal activity, we bring you our latest in developments in this child rape case over at Mount Carmel School. Now, if you're just joining us on this topic, going on a week and a half now, we received a tip from a confidential source close to Mount Carmel that according to the tip, the tip said September or October of 2018. We later find out that it's November. So in November 2018, a 12-year-old girl who is a student at Mount Carmel was found in a car with a 31-year-old man named James Bascon, who at the time was a maintenance worker at Mount Carmel, having no relationship with this girl. Well, having no family relationship with this girl or relationship through academics or extracurricular activities with this girl. And that a report was made to the Guam Police Department by a woman named Sandra Salas. And then the school knew about it, and William Sarmiento, the principal of the school, interviewed the 12-year-old girl, and the 12-year-old girl told him that she had been having a relationship with Mr. Bascon for 2 months by the time she was caught with Mr. Bascon in the car. Now, we tried several times to get a hold of Mount Carmel, and they hung up on us, wouldn't answer our calls after that. Then we tried to get a hold of someone at the Archdiocese. They didn't return calls. So we went to the Archdiocese. And Tony Diaz, who is the Director of Communications for the Archdiocese, after explaining to him what we knew, after telling him about the 2-month relationship, which he did not dispute in our conversation with him, admitted that, well, he said, according to the Archdiocese, Mount Carmel's principal was the one who reported the incident and not Sandra Salas. This is according to Tony Diaz. And that everything was done that was supposed to have been done according to the law. What he's talking about is the Child Protective Services Act, which has very strict reporting requirements when there is the witnessing of or suspicion of the abuse of a child in a physical or sexual way. So he makes that confirmation, and then we go to Mount Carmel School and basically ambush William Sarmiento, the principal. He was a real dumb fuck. And at first, he says that our claim that he made a report to the police and the Child Protective Services is wrong, that we're wrong. And then we inform him, well, actually, that's not our claim. It's the Archdiocese. It's Tony Diaz who told us that. And so then it's kind of hard to understand what he says, and we showed this last night. Then he goes to speak with Mike Phillips in his office. Mike Phillips is the attorney who is also the chair of the Mount Carmel Alumni and Endowment Foundation. And according to Mr. Sarmiento, and even confirmed by Tony Diaz at the Archdiocese, he is the de facto head of Mount Carmel School, though Mount Carmel still is an archdiocesan school, which legally means that whatever happens at Mount Carmel is the legal responsibility of the Archbishop and the Superintendent of Catholic Schools. His name is Richard Avila. So after that, whatever, with William Sarmiento, we call Tony Diaz and let him know that there are beginning to be discrepancies in this story coming from the Catholic Church. So we talked to Tony Diaz again today, trying to get a whole bunch of answers, and we'll get to the whole Neo part in just a second. But let's play that interview that we had with Tony Diaz today so you can understand better where all this is coming from and where all this is going. Okay, sorry, the file I sent to Eric didn't have any audio. So I'm just gonna play this from my screen. And
how was everyone's day at work? I spent most of mine sleeping.
okay, go ahead.
Read to you part of the first part of what I was saying.
Okay.
I said, hi, Troy. I'm very surprised at your report online, because I only saw it now. I had heard about it earlier today that you went to the school and certain things that were said and that I said. But so I said I was surprised that your report online attributes me as confirming the rape of a student who attends Mount Carmel School.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I said. Please note that the incident, which I spoke about when I agreed to sit down with you last Friday, May 10th, involved information that was shared with school principal Bill Sarmiento last November. That incident, I'm saying, is a student that was seen off campus with an adult employee of the school. A parent reported this, and this was back in November, right? And a parent reported this to the school administration. Of course, even though the staffer and the school and the student were seen together off campus and during non-school hours, that's still very inappropriate. So the parent who reported to the school the following Monday, because that happened on a Friday, did the correct thing. Because, as you and I know, you're not a relative or authorized guardian, it's inappropriate to be with a student.
Yes.
So I mentioned that the situation took place on a Friday evening at the GPO theater, and the parent reported Monday. I confirm with you that the school principal did report the incident to both CPS and the Guelph Police Department. So in my mind, the entire time, Troy, that's the incident I'm referring to. That's the incident that was in my mind, and when we spoke, and when I was aware of it, because I recall that in November, after the school reported this to Mr. Richard Avila, he had told me about it naturally. And in none of these cases, including the written report that was sent to Mr. Avila and that he shared with me, was there any mention of any sexual contact or rape. Now, I want to own up to one mistake that I made in speaking with you. I had mentioned that the incident that I was aware of was that he was seen in a
Tony, when we did speak, I did ask you about the church's knowledge of Mr. Sarmiento questioning the 12-year-old girl and the 12-year-old girl confessing to him that she and the former Mount Carmel employee had been in a relationship for 2 months. So that was the basis of the child rape. It wasn't
They
disputed.
mentioned that they were seen at a bus stop by somebody after school hours.
Well, no, that was after he was fired from the school.
Yeah.
So
I did not know of the ongoing relationship, although that would make sense that a person is sitting there with an adult, and that's inappropriate. So really, Troy, I hope you believe me, but I'm being genuine in that. I can see where you think I was referring to a matter where I was aware of, or that the school was talking about sexual contact or rape. That's not what I was in my mind at all. And so I was very surprised that when I saw the report that you're saying that I'm confirming that it was rape. You and I don't know each other that well, just a little bit, but I hope you have a sense that I'm being honest with that part. Now, I'm also telling you that I do own that part where I erroneously made reference to a student being seen with the adult in a car, when in fact that was never in an incident report that was shared with me. What was shared with me was that they were seen in the movie theater together.
Tony, do these clarifications from you come following any discussions with Attorney Mike Phillips or any of the church's attorneys?
No, this discussion comes with me speaking with Superintendent Richard Avila, and then me looking at the email that he had given me before.
Okay.
And yeah.
Aside from the Sunday meeting between the Archbishop and Attorney Mike Phillips, have there been any further discussions between either the Archbishop or Mr. Alvia and with Attorney Mike Phillips?
I don't know of any Sunday meeting.
You said that yesterday, when we talked on the phone, you said that just yesterday, Attorney Mike Phillips and the Archbishop met about this matter and discussed it.
No, I never said that. Just now?
No, yesterday, when we were on the phone yesterday after we left Mount Carmel.
When did, say that again? When?
You told me that, and I think I can just directly quote this. He said, just yesterday, Attorney Mike Phillips met with the Archbishop about this matter to discuss it further.
That's not at all. I never spoke to you. When are you saying that I said that to you?
Yesterday, over the phone, when we left Mount Carmel, and I asked you for some clarification on
You and I
things.
did not speak over the phone yesterday.
Yes, no, we did. We spoke on the phone yesterday.
That you said to me.
Yes, we spoke on the phone yesterday, and that was exactly when you clarified. It's exactly when you clarified that your email address is not tony.diaz@agoniaarch.org, but it is tony.diaz@archagania.org. That was, this is a very specific discussion that we had.
Yesterday was Tuesday.
Yesterday was Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, yesterday was Monday. Yeah.
Okay, well, Tony, I did want to ask you about some other things. Is the parish priest of Agate a member of the Neo-Catecumenical Way? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. The Way, as it's called, or the Neos?
The Alberto Rodriguez is a member, yeah.
He is a member. Are you aware whether
before we get to that, it's a big deal to me that there's an attribution to me that I said yes, there was a rape at the school, that I confirmed it, because you have
If you want, I will correct the attribution, but only if you're letting me know now that the Archdiocese is not recognizing this as an incident of child rape.
Based on the information that we have in the incident report, and we didn't, there was no incident of report at that time, incident of rape at that time. You're saying that there are people who are saying that there was a rape.
Well, yeah, that's what the relationship for 2 months prior to the GPO incident would.
And you have an actual person or persons who are saying that.
Yes.
I will advise the superintendent again that you guys are saying that.
So, okay, so I don't mind making that clarification just as long as we're clear that
Yeah.
the Archdiocese is not recognizing this as an incident of child rape.
What I'm saying is that the Archdiocese, based on the information that we were given and that the school was given, did not have information that there was an incident of rape or child abuse.
Okay, all right. It's very interesting. So, yeah, I don't mind, Tony. I don't mind making that attribution or correcting that attribution as well,
Yeah,
as long as this is what this means. So, going back to this NEO matter, or the way. Are you aware if this girl's the supposed victim, and I'm guessing the Archdiocese reported this as a custodial interference issue? How was this reported?
I don't have that information. That would probably be the situation because that's in my knowledge. That's a person that should not have been with a student.
Do you have the report number?
I don't have it, but I spoke to the school today, and they did.
So, sorry, here's the second part of that interview. There was like a Wi-Fi issue, so I had to go to the second part, or I had to like start up the live thing again. There was maybe an interruption of a few seconds, but here we go. So, sorry, here's the second part of that interview.
Sorry. Wrong thing.
There was like a Wi-Fi issue, so I had to.
Okay, wait. Sorry. Wrong one. Here's the right one. No, that's not the right one. Is that the right one? Yeah, this is the right one. Okay.
You and like anybody else that I'm involved with, but just know that I do my best, and that's why I was surprised that when you mentioned to me that we had that you had written to me before, and I did not respond, and we solved that problem because.
It was the email issue. It was that I had the email address wrong, and you clarified that yesterday in our conversation what your email address is. This is how I know that how I can remember that we discussed this yesterday around lunchtime.
Yeah.
So, and since you're clarifying that, I do want to clarify too. But the reason that we wanted to get you on camera was to avoid any sort of misconceptions that may come about. Though I want to let you know also that. In the context of the Archdiocese's knowledge of and when I say the Archdiocese, I'm including one of its officers as one of its agents, the principal of Mount Carmel School, with his knowledge that this girl had said to him that she and the maintenance worker were having a relationship for 2 months. Clearly, that's child rape.
So you're saying that this
Yes, in his interview with her following the incident. So what you're also telling me is that whoever reported it to the principal did not make the report until Monday, and this happened on a Friday, which would violate the 48-hour notice law under the Child Protective Act.
The understanding I have is the parent reported it.
Reported it on a Monday after the incident happened on a Friday.
Yes, that's the information I have.
Okay. Okay. Do you know if the girl's parents are members of the Way?
I have no idea.
Is there any way to find out?
You'd have to ask the parents, and I'm not going to get into that information.
I think we are going to ask the parents. Okay. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate your time on this. Thank you very much. Now clarify to our audience that your admission, or the Archdiocese admission, is that an incident of custodial interference was reported, but not an incident of child rape, and that the Archdiocese is not recognizing that this is a child rape case.
The best knowledge I have is that they reported it because it's inappropriate for an adult to be with a minor they're not authorized to be with.
What is the thought process behind calling it inappropriate? I mean, there has to be some sort of, in order for it to be reported to CPS and GPD, there has to be some sort of suspicion of misconduct somehow regarding the abuse of a child. So how is this inappropriate to the Archdiocese?
It's inappropriate because that's not in school property. It's not a coach, not a parent, not someone authorized to be with a student.
And so
And
the report was being made under the child abuse statute. So as the Archdiocese, I mean, wouldn't that be an admission from the Archdiocese of suspicion of abuse of a child?
And it was reported to Child Protective Services.
Yes. So the Archdiocese is admitting at the very least that it suspected the abuse of a child. So, okay, Tony, I just want to thank you, and I just wanted to leave you with this note. Mr. Sarmiento, and you referred to this a little bit earlier. Mr. Sarmiento made it a point in our interview with him yesterday to say that this incident didn't happen at school. Well, I don't know if you're aware of it, but I want to let you know that the several times I was raped by my teacher when I was 13 at St. Anthony's School. Most of the time, all of those rapes happen off campus as well. Just so you know. And so I don't know that matters whatsoever, and why the Archdiocese is running with that line.
I'm really sorry for the harm that you endured.
Thanks, Tony. You have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, so yesterday we told you about how we sent a note to Child Protective Services. Oh, sorry. We sent a note to Child Protective Services asking them a whole bunch of questions. Actually, let me read you these questions. And just so you know, Linda Rodriguez, the administrator for Child Protective Services, has not, has not responded. Sent. Screenshot report child rape. All right, so We asked Linda Rodriguez, in the email we told her, we are investigating the alleged rape of a Mount Carmel student by one of the employees. Principal William Sarmiento and Archdiocese spokesman Tony Diaz both informed us that Mr. Sarmiento filed a report with CPS as required by law. Oh, Chelo, don't cast to my screen because messages are coming in. I don't want people to see if there are any sources that are, yeah. Did your agency receive a report from Mr. Sarmiento regarding these allegations? If you did receive the report, what day was the report filed? Did Mr. Sarmiento fill out a written statement for your agency regarding the allegations? Are all of the required paperwork, such as statements made from investigators, victim statements, medical reports, and all related documents contained in this specific file your agency initiated regarding this allegation? Has CPS done an investigation into this allegation? If so, what steps has your agency taken to investigate this matter? Specifically, has CPS interviewed the victim regarding this allegation? And then the same question applying to the victim's parents, the reporting person, and the potential witnesses. Has anyone from CPS gone down to the Mount Carmel School campus to investigate this allegation? Has anyone from CPS communicated with the Guam Police Department regarding this allegation? Has any document, report, referral, or recommendation been sent over to the GPD regarding this allegation? Those last two questions we repeat, and the subject matter would be the Attorney General's office next and the Healing Hearts Center. Has anyone at your agency, including the previous director or deputy director, been contacted by Attorney Mike Phillips regarding this case? What services, to include counseling and therapy, have been offered and or given to the victim in this case? Please provide us with a copy of your standard operating procedures and how your case agents handle referrals to CPS. Linda Rodriguez has not responded yet. She hasn't even responded to say that she received the email. CPS is being evasive. Now, you guys need to pay attention to two sites. One is Guam Blog, and it's guamblog.tumblr.com, TUMBLR, there's no E.com. And those posts that Romeo Carlos posts to Guam Blog also get, the link gets posted to the Guam Blog Facebook page. There's a story that he's going to be bringing you later tonight or early in the morning. And I'm probably going to be up all night again waiting to see this story. He's been following this story as well. And he has some interesting information that may or may not include impropriety at Child Protective Services, which would be a damn shame. Don't go to my screen yet, Chelo. Let me just, I don't want people to see my wonderful library of wonderfulness. PH. So there is a story that was posted by Frenchie and the other online publication that I've been a fan of junglewatch.info for years now because it is, if you think civil politics are bad, wait till you read junglewatch.info. This was the page that Tim Rohr created that led to the downfall of Archbishop Anthony Apron. When this all started with Tim Rohr, and he was the one who led it for a long time. He was by himself for a long time. He was castigated by the church. I mean, they did all kinds of shit to him. They even were what I say they, I mean the leadership of the Neo-Catechumenical Way. And just a disclaimer here, like my dad and my stepmother are part of the Way. And like, I've never heard anything bad come out of their mouth. Well, they don't talk to me about religion. They already know, don't talk to me about religion. But I've just never heard like anything bad come out of their mouths. But boy, have I seen some bad things coming out of the leadership of the Way. And among those bad things is how when Tim Rohr was going through his very personal divorce, I mean, they pulled out all stops to slander him and to libel him. And they called him all kinds of things. And it was because Tim Rohr is the guy who led the effort to reform the church on Guam. It was a huge feat that one guy and that went through, and thankfully he had the support of many other people in the community as you know, things got going and they saw his courage about it. So Frenchie has been one of his supporters, and this is what Frenchie writes on this issue, and there's a reason I'm talking about this. With over 200 sexual abuse lawsuits going through the court system and the subsequent Chapter 11 reorganization of the finances of the Archdiocese, one could conclude that officials at the Chancery would be doing their most to follow up on allegations of sexual abuse. After the dismal administration of Aparon and his minions and the replacement of Deacon Martinez by Deacon Claris, aka Deacon for sure, following his catastrophic cover-up against Aparon by the late John Tovis, the faithful were elated by the new approach of our then newly appointed Archbishop Michael Jude Burns. Archbishop Burns, while facing a mountain of issues left by his inept and corrupted predecessor, seemed to take the bull by the horns. He did put in place a set of procedures for the church to identify and recognize victims. He initiated a third way for victims that did not want to sue. He put in place a reporting system for any abuse that may arise in the future. He also made it mandatory for all personnel inside the church and in the schools affiliated with the church to go through a sensitivity training as well as a background check. They probably missed Mount Carmel in that training. Actually, one can easily follow this comprehensive program on the Archdiocese website. So far, Archbishop Burns has talked the talk and started addressing a long litany of sore issues. Unfortunately for the Catholic Church of Guam, policies are only as good as the people that are supposed to watch that they are functioning properly. As we have advocated here repeatedly, the devil is always in the details and inside Joanne Brown. We have also demonstrated on more occasions than necessary that Archbishop Burns is surrounded by people that do not have his interests or the interests of the church at large in mind. We have shown that many of the actors at the Chancery are holdovers of the previous administration. It's like the government of Guam, who are more interested in protecting their little dominions and to continue their little fiefdoms rather than truly following the instructions and desires of the Archbishop and or the faithful. We have seen how the neo-catechumenal way priests totally ignore their instructions and the liturgy at large, as well as I have no idea what the GRIM is, but it spells grim. In this lack of reporting by Deacon Martinez, the vicar to the neos, has been very disappointing to say the least. The new Chancellor, Father Ron Richards, who is also the special assistant to Archbishop Burns, while coming with an excellent academic background, has so far revealed himself to be flippant and dismissive of local actors, bringing with him what some of the usual suspects at the EOG would qualify as a colonialist attitude. We'll skip this finance thing because that's not important to tonight's discussion. So why all the complaining about this? Simply because after all the heartaches of the past few years, it would seem logical that the Chancery would want to stay in front of the problems instead of chasing after them. Here comes Gadfly extraordinaire, former Calvo administration whistleblower, blogger, and internet star. I'm blushing. Famous for his live blogs and chasing a story like a pit bull, as well as his potty mouth. I call the founder of Candid News, Troy Torres. I seriously doubt that many followers of Candid News check in on Jungle Watch. Okay, let's stop right there, because I have been a fucking fan of Jungle Watch for a while. And Candid viewers, friends, you need to view this. They have like over 8 million views since they started, and it's because their shit is really good. Like it's really good. It's just like Guam Blog. Like read Guam Blog and read Jungle Watch. It's very essential, especially if you're very business tautau. You you got to read Guam Blog and Jungle Watch. But since we are on Guam and that the majority of its population is still Catholic, it is very relevant. So then he goes into the Mount Carmel school case. For the past few days, Troy's been chasing the story of a 12-year-old female student who was repeatedly raped by a custodian of Mount Carmel School. Candid News has chased the story with the school, the Chancery, the GPD, Child Services, as well as the governor's office. At the Chancery, they were referred to Tony Diaz, the press secretary, who, to say the least, did a terrible job at answering questions and trying to sound convincing. And instead, he was evasive, and his statements were contradicted by GPD and the governor's office. Mount Carmel was as evasive and not convincing, hiding behind red tape and vague statements. Where are the Chancellor, the Vicar General, the Superintendent of Catholic Schools? The Archdiocese of Agana cannot afford to be perceived as being in the midst of a new cover-up. Put your pants on and face the music. Archbishop Burns, you have talked the talk. It's time to walk the walk. Find out who is trying to cover up this story. Fire people if necessary. Demand accountability. You are the Archbishop. We will follow you in the right path. Just lead. So, a message came in while this story was, like, in the last few minutes. and we'll confirm this, but apparently there was a time, and this time period might cover November of last year, when attorney Mike Phillips himself was the chancellor of the Archdiocese of Agania. I had no idea. I thought you had to be like a priest or something to be the chancellor. I didn't know that you can be a lesbian with greasy hair and a mustache and be the chancellor of the Catholic Church on Guam. Like, I thought they had like this anti-gay thing, but you know, Mike Phillips and his lesbian partner, Darlene Heaton, they're like heathens to the church because they're lesbos, you know? They like that whole like, you know, or the whatever they do. I don't know what they do. It's disgusting. Straight men and lesbians. It's gross, man. I'm just kidding. So, and I'm sorry. I know this is a very serious issue. I'm kidding about all that stuff, and I'm sorry to inject some humor into this. It's a very serious issue. So, here's where things get crazy. Now, on top of the cover-ups, on top of at either the Attorney General's office, CPS, or Guam Police Department, at one of these three, we have not been able to confirm where. Romeo Carlos may have confirmed where, but I'm not sure. And he won't tell me, so I have to wait for his story. At one of those three places, these are reporting places, well, at least GPD and Child Protective Services are the reporting places according to the law. At one of these three entities, a file does exist with a digital fingerprint that doesn't go away when the file originates under either a suspect name or a reporting party's name. The reporting party's name popped up. And so there's a file. In this child rape case of the 12-year-old girl from Mount Carmel, the thing is that there's nothing in that file. Been wiped clean. At CPS, we've learned that there are very few people who have access to that system who are able to insert and remove files from it. I'm not sure what it is with GPD, but according to Sergeant Paul Tapal, when we talked to him yesterday, he had his investigators scouring through the files trying to find this file over at Guam Police Department. So I think we can X out GPD as being one of these places because they haven't even found a file. But according to sources, there is at one of the other two places, AG's office or CPS, there was a file found, and there's nothing in the file. So Carlina Charfaris told us yesterday that they don't have anything. Nothing exists on this over at the AG's office. So we're left to believe that it's CPS where this file exists, but with no documents in it. It's a huge problem. And it points to corruption, like in a very big way. I'm starting to smell a racketeering case. And the ability for whomever was wronged in this to file a civil racketeering suit and file for damages that way. Now, because it's so fresh and the statute of limitations won't be out for a while, I mean, this could also be ripe for a criminal racketeering case, which is like the highest of like, you go to jail for a long, long time, like a long time. So, a RICO case, that's what they call it. Sorry, it's a RICO case. So, let's try to put this together. This happened in November of last year. Let's say a report was made and no one's been able to give us the report numbers, show us the reports, nothing. They just said that they made the reports. But let's say a case was filed to cover their asses. That would have been a smart thing to do. And then attorney Mike Phillips or somebody uses the considerable influence that they have over at the governor's office or the administration of the time. Remember, this is the Calvo and the Tenorio administration. Are we running through the photos, Chelu? So you have to understand. You have to understand that Attorney Mike Phillips is a powerful man now, but had immensely more power when the Calvo Tenorio administration was in power, for many reasons involving money, influence, and the silencing or the disappearance of evidence in criminal activity that Mike Phillips, Eddie Calvo, Ray Tenorio, the Calvo family, and many others were involved in regarding the Port Authority, YTK, and all that stuff, right? Now, let's say the tables are turned and there was criminal activity over at Mount Carmel that needed to be covered up. If you made a report to CPS, in order to cover it up, you would need to remove the files from CPS. Now, even if all that happened, how could you assure that there are loose ends, right? Even if you made the case disappear, what about the parents of the girl? They could go to the media at any time. They could file a case at any time, a civil case for the violation of their daughter's rights. A criminal case, they could bring the matter to the FBI or to the AG. So why risk that, right? That's the only thing that never really made sense until today. Tony Diaz, in that interview, if you heard him, he confirmed that Father Alberto Rodriguez, the pastor of Mount Carmel Church in Agate, is one of the few priests who is the pastor of a church on Guam who is a member of the Neo-Catechumenical Way. As a matter of fact, he's not just any Neo priest. He was the vice chancellor of the Neo during the Archbishop Aparon days. Yeah, he was like the fourth in command or the third in command of the Catholic Church on Guam. And just up until recently, Mike Phillips was the chancellor of the Catholic Church, the lesbian Mike Phillips. We were able to confirm, well, the sad thing is it's because when I found out who the girl is and who her parents are, I know them. They're actually very nice people. They're very God-fearing people. As a matter of fact, they're in the Neo. And that's why I was asking Tony Diaz about his knowledge of the Neo-Catechumenical Way, about the priest in Agate and his connection or his knowledge with any of this happening. And what we want to know, and we may never find out because this organization within the Catholic Church is extremely secretive. And when they do things, they're a community. They don't, whether or not it's against the law, it's not their concern. And so what we fear is that not necessarily that the parents were paid off or that the tuition was paid off or anything like that, but for reasons of God and community, they were convinced not to pursue this matter, to just let it die. And that would be the worst thing for this 12-year-old girl if that was the case. So I implore the girl's parents, if you're watching, please come forward to the authorities. Please say something. According to the Archdiocese, as far as Tony Diaz knows, there was no offer of payoff. There was no non-disclosure agreement that was signed or anything like that. But what would Tony Diaz know? He doesn't even have the police report. He was basing everything on conversations with attorney Mike Phillips and no verification whatsoever. The Archdiocese, at the very least, is guilty of neglecting its responsibilities because it is in charge of Mount Carmel School as an archdiocesan school. You would think that in the midst of a huge litigation with all the claimants against the Catholic Church, that it would want to set the right example in this case and not only to make sure that this case was properly reported, but to follow up in its prosecution, and more importantly, to follow up with that girl to provide her the services that she needs, the spiritual guidance that she needs, since she's a Catholic school student. So, that's basically that with that story. Am I missing anything? Can you guys help me? Missy Ray or Johnny, can you help me out if I'm forgetting something in this story? I mean, there's always tomorrow, but I know it's a lot already that we put out. Okay, so let me know. I'm gonna go to Mariana's Dirty Laundry to cap out this night. If there's anything I'm missing, just message it in the comments. I can see it right now, or WhatsApp me. So let's go to Mariana's Dirty Laundry, so we don't end this night with being bummed. Well, I'm gonna look again. Okay, Mariana's Dirty Laundry. Okay, let's go to my screen. Fuck you, Cedric. All right, so when I was at the gym earlier tonight, I was doing the triceps extension thing, or whatever the hell it's called, with the rope cables. And I decided I wanted to take a sexy picture of myself. So I took the picture, and then as soon as I saw those ropes and the balls at the end, I was like, oh, I'm putting this up. Thank you, Missy Ray. And then this one's kind of sad. This one is, I think it's a sister to a sister. So I'll get back to that like after the show. Let's see. I remember. Oh shit, that's right. I forgot about this. This is important. Peter Uggan, or Vincent Peter Uggan. He posts in the group Guam Cockers Association, and it's a cockfighting. It's a rooster fighting organization. I guess like the people they know are all in that or whatever. That's why I don't know why he posted it there. But the important thing is, he says, Buenas fellow cockers. My youngest son, Calvin Uggan, and his girlfriend, Kaylola Tovis, have been missing since Friday. I humbly request anyone who has seen them to contact me as soon as possible. Thank you and God bless. This is their picture. This is Kaylola, and this is Calvin. If you guys know where they are, you have to say something. You have to tell the police, because the parents are looking for them, and I'm sure there's a law that you're breaking if you don't tell somebody where they're at. And then there was, hold on. Where was all the new freaking Mariana's Dirty Laundry shit? What? Where is everything? How come everything is, oh my God, this Mick Suckin and Dev from Dedo thing is just blowing up. Okay. You know what? I guess, oh no, you guys have to see this one. If you haven't seen this one already, this is a Spartan kick by a mermaid. Hold on, let me just. Yeah.
Little Mermaid really Spartan kicks the shit out of a fucking human being. Watch this.
All right, that's all for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for your support. Thank you for getting.
Let me let y'all know.
Thank you for getting the word out about this news that we report. We spend a lot of time through the day and into the night receiving information, hunting down leads, chasing these stories that, and if you notice, we don't cover like the full gamut, the full range of the news. We're not going to read off of government press releases glorifying directors and politicians and providing absolutely no substance to a discussion that requires some brain power in this world. We're not going to be that kind of news organization. We're going to concentrate on stories that matter to you the most. Before I sign off, I forgot there was a story that I wanted to tell you. And I'm not going to
I'm not going to reveal who told me this story or the other person who's involved, but there's this chick, and she had a boss, and they're both in political circles, and so they both know all of these people. Like they know Joe Man Brown and Darlene Heaton, the two lesbians of the night who we brought up earlier. Darlene Hinton or whatever is attorney Mike Phillips' girlfriend. Joe Man Brown is a resident of SeaWorld. And so this was a few years ago, and this woman, this chick, she had heard that Darlene Hinton was pregnant. So her boss was going to a function or going to have lunch with Darlene Hinton and Mike Phillips, because they were all having this whatever lunch together. And he says, "Darlene, congratulations on your pregnancy." And that fat bitch was like, "I'm not pregnant." And he didn't get it because he like, he trusted, his worker, this chick. And so he was like, no, really, congratulations. You're really coming along there. So he gets back to the office and he says, "Fuck you." And then it gets better. It gets better. So later, like a year later or something, this boss is going to lunch with attorney Tom Keeler from the Attorney General's office. And attorney Tom Keeler is Joe Man Brown's unfortunate boyfriend. And so this chick tells her boss, "Oh, make sure you congratulate him because Joanne's pregnant." And he was like, "I'm not falling for that shit again." But she really was pregnant. So she tells him, "No, I promise you, I swear she's really pregnant." And so he comes back and he's like, "Fuck you, you did it to me again." And she's like, "No, she's really pregnant." And he said, "Yeah, but that's not his fucking baby." And she's like, "What the fuck?" He says, "It's a fucking test tube baby." Oh man, that's a relationship formed with love, because that guy did not want to have a fucking baby with Joanne Brown. Oh fuck, my stomach hurts. Oh shit. From our studios here in Agunya. Good night, motherfuckers. Sign off, sign off.